Good afternoon, good evening, good morning from wherever you are joining us from today. My name is Sarah and I'm the Program and Event Manager at the Reactor in Sydney. Welcome to another Microsoft Reactor Sydney live event. Today I'd like to welcome Mathew Gilbertson. Hi to Mathew. Hi. Mathew is a productivity and sales coach and businessman with a background in construction and more than 20 years experience as a director in private, non-for-profit and public business. Today, Mathew will be talking about how Windows 10 and Microsoft 365 can help reduce waste effort from your day. So this session will be approximately 60 minutes with about 10 to 15 minutes of those at the end for questions. At the conclusion, we'll also share with you a link to the feedback survey in the chat box. Your feedback helps us to create topics that help suit our audiences. So if you have the time at the end of your lunch break today, please fill it out. Also, if you'd like to reference this session after today as well, a recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel in the coming days. But for now, I'd like to give the floor to Mathew to begin the session. Mathew, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you to those who have joined. And if you're going to watch this later, thank you for spending some time with me this afternoon. This is an opportunity for us just to stop and think for a couple of minutes, 45 minutes or so. We're going to think about how we use technology and how we interact with it, and some of the features that you may know exist, but perhaps you haven't thought about putting them into your work practice, or perhaps you didn't know about them. And even if you do know everything that I'm going to show you today, in my experience in working with customers across the globe, I'm yet to find groups of people that do all of these things in the way they interact with Windows and Office. So we want to stop and think for a few minutes, and we need to tackle two challenges. And these are the challenges that we're going to tackle in the course of this session today. I like Dilbert comics. I like reading Scott Adams's books. But here is the two things we're going to tackle today. The first one is duplication of or wasted effort. We want to eliminate duplication from our workflow because we hate doing things twice unnecessarily, and we certainly hate wasted effort. But perhaps the biggest one that tackles or faces us in work, in modern work, particularly now that we're working remotely more often, is this one of distraction. And there's a couple of home truths that we need to understand. We don't go into the research today on this. I'll give you links to the research and explanations to this research later. But in short, multitasking for the human effectively is a myth. We are not built to multitask effectively, and distraction at work significantly hurts us. We currently have approximately 1/3 of our workforce says that they feel stressed the entire time they're at work. And what compounds that stress is this simple equation. Perhaps you've heard these numbers. One study suggests that it takes 23 minutes and 17 seconds for us to recover from a distraction that we've allowed ourselves to take in the course of work. Interestingly, the average time an office worker spends on any given task at this point in time is 3 minutes or less. So we're attempting to switch tasks every 3 minutes. How much deep thinking is this allowing us to get done in the course of our work days? Not a great deal. And the symptoms of this relate to that stress that we all feel from time to time at work. Hopefully we don't feel it all the time, but plenty of people do. When was the last time you had a day that you finished and just felt completely frazzled at the end of? Felt like you just ran around in circles for the entire day and got nothing done of worth note, yeah? Have you had that feeling before? Most people have. Someone once suggested to me that that feeling is what makes the gin taste so good at the end of the day. And whilst I'm sure that's true, I'm not sure that's a solution to the problem. So let's jump in straight away and talk about focus in Windows 10. What can Windows 10 do to help me focus? Yeah. We're going to start by learning to find things effectively and minimize the risk of distraction while finding things in the course of our work. So typically you've probably got a Word document open or a spreadsheet open or an email open, and that document, and here's a blank Word document, but this document here prompts me to find something else that I need. Maybe I have to go and find a spreadsheet, for example. So typically people have things stored on their desktop as a great way to find things that they need to work on. So here's a scenario. I'm working on this Word document. I want to get something on my desktop because it's my next thing to do. So I minimize my Word document to look at what's on my desktop. Has this been your experience? You minimize that Word document, but behind it, instead of a clear workspace, you find some other half typed up email or half finished task. Straight away, distraction kicks in, and I look at that half typed up email and I go, oh, that's right, I forgot that. I'll just do that now. What have you done? You've distracted yourself. That distraction opens the door for more distraction, and eventually you're going to find that original prompt again, but you'll have been wasting deep thinking time. You've removed yourself from the flow of work and the focus of work, and you've been distracted. So what can I do with my prompt to get what's next without being distracted? Very simply, I'm going to learn to use my start menu. Open your start menu in Windows 10. This start menu is customizable. You don't have to have this much information on it. You can have a little bit, you can have a lot. Yeah, it's up to you how you customize it. But there's 3 things here that you need to have in your start menu to help you get things without losing focus. And the first thing you need to have here is your programs. And it's very easy to drag a program from the left-hand column and drop it into clear space on the right-hand shortcut menu over here. Have you done that before? You can also right-click on these programs and pin or unpin them from start, and you can do some other things here as well with them. In fact, if I right-click on this Photos app, I can actually resize it, and I can get to recent files here as well. So think about that for a second. I was prompted by this Word document to send someone a new email. Go to the Start menu, right-click on Outlook, and open a new email message without even going to my inbox. Yeah. So I'm not risking distraction at any level. I'm able to get to what I want without minimizing my prompt or opening my workflow to distraction by learning to use the Start menu. So right-click gets recent files or other actions, or simply clicking it once opens what I want. That's programs. Did you notice here I've got folders pinned to the Start menu? So I can pin a folder. I'm using this templates folder all the time. So I can get straight to it by clicking on the Start menu and going to that folder. I'm not having to navigate through recent files or other folder layers to get to what I want. I can pin a folder that I'm using all the time by right-clicking on it straight to the Start menu. So right-click on any folder in File Explorer and pin it to Start. Did you notice that my icons are sort of grouped? We can drag icons around here. We can regroup them. I can add new groups, and we can give those groups a new name by typing those names in here. Let's remove that. We can move groups of icons around here as well. Very customizable menu. And again, the key message here is using the Start menu helps me avoid distraction. The third type of icon I can pin to the Start menu is individual web pages. Yeah. So using the modern Edge browser, I have a 3-dot menu, and under More Tools, I have the option to pin this page straight to the Start menu. Why would I want to pin a web page straight to Start? Why wouldn't I go to the browser and open favorites? Well, if you do go to a browser, what are you going to see? An internet site, worse than that, a news feed. What's going to happen? Distraction will surely kick in. 30 minutes later, you'll be back in Twitter or Facebook or somewhere else, eBay, and you'll be getting nothing done. Yeah. So we can pin web pages to the Start menu. Some web pages, PWAs, can actually be pinned as apps to my web page. This is an example of the Australian Bureau of Meteorology website. And in the browser bar, using the Edge browser, you have the option to turn this web page into an app. And here it is as an app. Here's my weather locally. I can see the rain radar. I'm hoping for some rain for my grass this afternoon. But we can get access to web pages as apps in Windows. Why would I want this web page to open individually as an app? Why wouldn't I want it to open as a web browser and just keep opening tabs on my web browser? Who's this person? Are you this person which ends up with 15 or 20 tabs open at the end of your workday? Did you know that as soon as you get to 5 open web tabs, we can actually physically measure the increase in stress that you're putting through your body? Why would having 5 or more web tabs open cause you stress? Well, your mind sees these open tabs and starts fretting and going, I hope I can get back to this. I don't want to lose that. I need to do that. This is attempted multitasking, and it's not helping you get work done. It is increasing your stress levels. So focus and task management requires that I work on a single task at any given time, and that I populate my screen with only an individual task. Now, I'll come back to that thought in just a second. Let's just finish off on this key point here. The start menu is for web pages, folders, and programs. It lets me get them without moving my prompt, meaning that I can focus and avoid more distractions. If I can't find it on the search menu, on the start menu, then you're going to search for it. In the bottom, we can hit the Windows key on our keyboard, or we can tap in this field and I can search for settings. And I'm just searching for Windows Pen settings, and I can open it straight from here. Programs, settings, the web, we can browse anything from the search bar in Windows. All right. So point number 1, if I want less distraction at work, learn to use the start menu and search to find things. Customize your start menu for the things that you need to use on a daily basis. Now that we can find things, we now need to learn to get our task on our set of screens without other tasks being visible. And to do that, I'm going to use split screen. I'm going to show you this with a mouse. You can use keyboard shortcuts for this, but I'll show you this with a mouse and with a pen or touch. Drag this Word document away from its position. Move it to the middle edge of your display. And my device has done 2 things for me. The screen has pinned or snapped Word to half of my display. And the second thing it's doing here is it's asking me, what open application do I want to be the other half of my display? I'm going to pick my spreadsheet. So now on my single monitor, I've got my full task open and ready for me to work on. I could be looking at my numbers and typing up a Word document or an email or something else that I've split screened. We can go further than this. I can drag this away from its position and move it into a corner. Watch what happens when I snap it into a corner. And now I've got 3 windows or even 4 snapped on my display. Now on a small screen, individual monitor, perhaps this isn't ideal, but think about your docked scenario when you've got multiple monitors connected to your device. Well, this is great. I can have things snapped all across my desktops, and I can be working on one task whilst seeing all the information available at the time that I need it. This avoids me having to tab between things, and obviously, if I'm not tabbing, I'm reducing the risk of distraction as well. All my information's up in front of me. I can focus on it, navigate between my open applications, and get this task done. Now, in the modern work environment, we don't have a distraction-free world. It's not possible. We have colleagues, we have customers, we have bosses. If you're working from home, you probably have other family members, even the furry kind at home, that all vie for your attention. So we are going to now talk about how to manage legitimate distractions already. Yeah. How do we do that? Here's a scenario. I'm in this task. I'm happily working away, but I get a legitimate distraction. How do I deal with it? Windows 10 has this really cool underutilized feature called Timeline and Task View. Task View. Let's click on Task View. You should now be able to see my open applications. And underneath that, I have a list of what I was doing earlier today. Now, have you ever sat at your computer and gone, what was I doing again? What was it again that I was working on? Lots of people have that experience. Timeline tracks what your device, your Windows 10 device, has been doing with you. So I can look at what I was doing today. In fact, I can search Timeline for the last 30 days worth of activity on my device. That's right, I was reading about whatever it happens to be. For me, it was about building some shelving in my walk-in wardrobes at home. So I can just search for the word wardrobe, and here we go. Here's all the information that I was reviewing around about that in my timeline. So timeline is one way to get back to things we've forgotten about, what I was doing earlier. But there's another important feature here, and it's called New Desktop. Now, sometimes in a live presentation, this doesn't work very well. So I'm not going to show this to you today, just because of the way that Teams works with regards to our live demonstration. But in short, what I can do with new desktops is I can have new working spaces in Windows 10. And I can actually drag applications and drop them into new workspaces. Yeah. So I can navigate between my open workspaces and have different tasks set up in different workspaces. If I close a desktop, any open applications in that desktop don't close. They just come back to my timeline view or task view, and I can close things from here if I want to. You can't close things that require a dialog box intervention. Okay, so what have we gone through so far from a distraction management perspective? We need to learn to get things without losing focus, and the start menu is the best way to find that, and search can help. I need to get my task populated on my monitor or set of monitors, and it's best to not have other tasks visible if you want to maintain focus. Hide your other tasks. Best practice is to put those tasks into different workspaces using timeline and the new desktop function. How many desktops can you have open in Windows 10? Well, Wikipedia told me that if you have an i5 8 gig of RAM machine, you can have over 1,500 desktops open. Now, can I just suggest to you that if you've got 1,500 incomplete tasks, we have different problems that we need to address rather than just distraction at work. Yeah. One of the most popular desktops I set up is my Outlook one. And I want to show you this because I haven't found many people that know to do this. I find it quite an amazing thing to do. So here's Outlook. This is my personal inbox open in front of you all here right now. I want to see my calendar at the same time as my inbox, and this is how I can do that. You can open Outlook multiple times. I'm going to right click on the calendar icon, and I'm going to open my calendar in a new window, and now I'm going to split screen my calendar with my emails. So here's my calendar and here's my email. So I've got this email here from Debbie that I need to have a look at. And I look at this email and I go, that's straight away a half an hour's worth of work. How would you make that email something that actually gets done? What would you do? Would you flag it? Would you turn it into a task? I can turn this into a task by dragging it and dropping it onto the task list in Outlook. What I love about this is that I can now assign this task to someone else. So I can put my brother in here as the person I want to send this task to and send it to him. It's now in my task list and his, and I've just turned that email into the best possible task I can have, and it's a task that someone else is doing for me. Yeah. But if it's for me to do, I want to get this task out of my inbox and into my calendar. Why do I need to get this task out of my inbox? An inbox in Outlook or an activity feed in Microsoft Teams. Do you know what I'm talking about? The activity feed in Teams. The activity feed in Teams and your inbox are simply a list of other people's priorities. Can I make that point again? An inbox or an activity feed in Teams is a list of whose priorities? Other people's, not mine. Now, you know what? Some of those priorities do need to become mine. The best place for your priorities is in your calendar. So let's drag this email from Debbie and let's drop it into clear space in my calendar for Wednesday afternoon. What just happened? An appointment opened. I'm going to make sure I've got the timeline right here. I'm going to hit save and close. That is now in my calendar. What's the likelihood of me addressing this item now that it's in my calendar? Is it more likely to be addressed or less likely than when it was just in my inbox? That's right. If it's in your calendar, you're probably going to get it done. Yeah. There's another thing we need to understand about this type of task management. It comes back to these numbers that I showed you before. We've talked about the stress that results from living in this high task switching environment, right? But I want you to think about the last time you were able to get something done and you got that focus time you needed. You were able to get into the zone or the flow, as we call it, and you're able to complete something. When you did that, and maybe you had to come to work early, or maybe you had to stay up late at night to get that clear air, how did you feel when you got that task done? Productive? Accomplished? Yeah? Ultimately, we feel happy when we complete quality tasks. The chemical reaction in your brain that you've engendered or inspired by completing a quality, deep thinking task inspires you to get the next thing done. Yeah, getting quality tasks done helps you get more tasks done. How can I get into this flow more often than being trapped in this task switching flow? In simple terms, become calendar driven. Think about this. What time do you start work in the morning? 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock? Let's say I get my coffee, I come to work at 8:30 in the morning, I sit at my desk and I look at not other people's priorities, I look at mine, I look at my calendar. And my calendar is set up so that at 8:30 this morning, I've got a meeting to do. Or probably better than a meeting is a deep thinking task. Yeah, that was my morning this morning, but I've got a deep thinking task. And so I go to my calendar, I look at that appointment and I complete that deep thinking task. By 9:30, I've finished that first quality task of the day. How will I feel at 9:30? I'll feel better than when I started my work in the day. How many days can you say that by 10 o'clock in the morning, you feel better than when you started? This simple change, becoming calendar driven, will help you feel better about your workday. Block time into your calendar to do your triaging, to respond to those quick emails that don't take 30 minutes, that take 2 minutes. Have time set aside to do that high task switching workload, but make sure that you have time in your calendar set aside for the important tasks that you need to get done. So I've got a question in the Q&A about virtual desktops. And so just to finish off this, before I answer your question, I always set up a virtual desktop, which is my emails and my calendar. And I make sure that that desktop is away from my work zone. I put those applications in another desktop. Are these desktops permanent? No, they're not permanent. They will survive a sleep and wake up event on your PC. So if you have set up your workloads in the morning, you've got maybe 3 or 4 different desktops open, and you leave your computer to go and have lunch and your computer goes to sleep, when you come back, they'll all be there. If you shut down your computer, all of your programs obviously shut down, and so they won't be there when you come back. But if you set yourself up at the beginning of your day to push tasks to new workspaces, leave them there until they're complete. Don't close those workspaces until you've done them, would be my recommendation to you. So thanks for the question. By the way, keep the questions coming through if you've got them. So a couple of key points for you that we've covered off so far. First one, again, for emphasis, use the start menu to find things. Search for everything else. Split screen your applications. So again, pin something to the middle of your display. Top middle, make something full screen. That's handy for when you've got other monitors in play. So you can drag something to another monitor, and to make it full screen, we just drag it to the top middle of our display. Get your task visible on a single set of monitors. Don't tab between things. Don't have other tasks visible. Put new tasks on new desktops with the timeline feature and multiple desktops. All right, there's another very important feature that we need to learn to use to manage tasks effectively in Windows 10. And that is in the bottom right-hand corner of our displays, we have the Action Center. Now, very kindly, my Action Center is telling me that it's turning off notifications because I'm in full screen presentation mode. Yep, so Windows 10 is smart enough to go, oh, I think Matt's presenting. Let me just hide notifications because I don't want my next reminder to pop up and interrupt what I'm doing. Yep. Even better than leaving that to chance, let's use something called Focus Assist. Now, if you don't see this many icons when you open your Action Center, you may have this many here, just 4 at the bottom. But here is an expand button. The expand button helps me see all my other quick action icons. Something here I'm just going to quickly mention to you is the Nightlight function. If I right click on Nightlight and go to settings, and I can actually go to Nightlight settings in the Windows settings app, and I can schedule on and off Nightlight in Windows 10. Have you done that on your device? What does Nightlight do? Nightlight turns on your blue light filter. If you haven't done this on your mobile phones, you should be doing this, all right? If you haven't done it on your computer, please try it. I've set mine up because of location services to let my device know where I am, so that at sunrise and sunset, my blue light filter automatically kicks in. Why would Nightlight automatically? I'm going to answer that question on accessibility features. I'll come back to that in a sec. Thanks for the question. I just want to talk about Nightlight here for one more second. Why would I want Nightlight to automatically come on and off? A study done in Australia in 2018 suggested that as much as 1/3 of our workforce is currently experiencing the equivalent of jet lag because of their screen use at night time. What's jet lag? Well, essentially, it's lack of sleep. Have you ever had jet lag? Probably not in the last 12 months, thanks to COVID, but when you did have it, can you remember how functional you were? Yeah, not very. Imagine that. 1/3 of our workforce currently is experiencing the equivalent of jet lag because they're stuck on Facebook or Candy Crush at 1 o'clock in the morning. Why are they doing that? Largely, it's because blue light is designed to keep your attention and your focus and to keep you awake. Yep. It's not by chance that our devices keep our focus and are able to distract us. It is not by chance, it's by design. Our human battle is to take control of what we focus on and not leave it to what technology tells us to focus on. To assist us with that, turn on your Nightlight schedule for sunrise and sunset, but also please use Focus Assist. If I click Focus Assist once, it goes to priority only. If I click it again, it's turned to alarms only. Alarms only turns off notifications with the exception of appointment reminders, so meeting reminders. Why would I allow a pop-up in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen to interrupt what I'm doing? Yeah, good question. And the answer is I shouldn't be. Turn off notifications. Now in Microsoft Teams, you are probably going to have to turn off Teams notifications separately to this, because sometimes, and depending on what version of Teams you run, Teams notifications don't play by the rules of Windows 10. They play by their own rules. So you may need to turn off Teams notifications. Yep. But we need to choose when I will pay attention to notifications and when I won't. Now, perhaps you've got a boss that demands that you be ready for notifications no matter what. In that case, instead of alarms only, I'll turn this to priority only. I'll go to settings, and I can actually go and customize a priority list of applications and people that can get through my notification barrier. We have a lot of people who feel like they have to monitor their inboxes in case, right, of important information. Is that a healthy way to be working? Well, to answer that question, I have a question for you. If a fire broke out at your place of work right now, would any of you text message or email the fire department about your impending disaster? No? What would you do? Would you call them? Yeah, of course you would. Text message of any kind is not an appropriate way to notify someone of an emergency. If you need to send someone emergency information, do so. But don't expect them to be paying attention to it. You have to have a way to get in touch with them that is not a text-based message, that is not commingled with all of the other irrelevant information they're going to get today. Yep. So Focus Assist, learn to use it and turn off notifications. So let's just cover off our focus points again here. What have we done? Start menu, customize it, programs, applications, web pages, split screening, new tasks on new desktops, notifications turned off on my phone and on my device. If we can do that, that sets us up at a basic level for taking charge of our actions for the day and allowing us to focus without unnecessary or unplanned distraction. Now, a question I have here from Anonymous is, are there any accessibility features in the areas of productivity tools that I mentioned? I'm going to come back to those shortly. Inbuilt accessibility in Windows 10. There are lots of things here, and we can just simply search for accessibility in Windows 10. We hit the Windows key and we search for accessibility, and we can start finding some of those features. I'm going to touch on a couple of them when we talk about duplication of effort in just a few minutes. In my work in front of executives and customers who are using Windows devices of any kind, I can't stress this enough. This ability to focus using Windows 10 is just not being done. I see very few people talking about this space, and even fewer. In fact, I can't think of a single person I've met in the last 3 years or longer that's done all of those things on a regular basis that we've gone through. Customize their start menu, knows how to split screen, has turned off notifications, and is using multiple desktops. So there's a challenge for you. You might think that maybe not all those things are for you, but I want you to try them. Spend a day working that way. See how you feel at the end of it. I personally guarantee you, you'll get more done. Becoming calendar driven, another key message that we've touched on today. It's a great way to start to get more quality work done. Yeah. Now, when you do go down that journey of becoming calendar driven, I find a lot of people struggle with that initially. And the initial thing is that they put everything in their calendar and they end up with no space in their calendar. You're going to have to play with the balance. Your balance is your balance. I can't do that for you. You have to work out what's a healthy amount to have in your calendar and what's not. But the key message is those deadline tasks, those important tasks, they need to be in your calendar. All right. I want to move now from distraction and focus, and hopefully you've taken away some key pointers there. I want to move for the next 10 or so minutes into duplication of effort. I'm going to show you a couple of key features in Windows 10 and Office that allow me to remove duplication of effort from my workflow. And the first one is an accessibility feature, and it's also to do with multiple modes of working. It's the on-screen keyboards and alternate ways of capturing data. Is a keyboard the best way to capture data or to create data? Well, if I'm sitting at my desk, it probably is. Yeah. However, if it's a specific creative task, something I need my deepest thinking to do, or if I'm away from my desk and a keyboard is not convenient for me to use, then a digital pen is a great way to minimize duplication of effort. In the suite of on-screen keyboards, I have a range of them, but I have this tablet input panel. I love this tool. It's one of my favorite tools in Windows. It lets me write to text. And here's an example. How we can, now that last word should have been the word how. I've got some suggestions here which aren't correct, but if I simply write over that character, what this is going to do is it's going to try and correct this for me. And we're playing a little bit of a game here. Oi. Demo guides are playing jokes with me right now. That's okay. I'm also doing this while presenting to you, so my screen's up on an angle. This isn't the best experience in the world. Whoops, let's rub that out. And I actually wanted to write data, so let's write that in there. Excellent. I can write the text in any application with this tool. Now, here's another example of, you might be out on the road or walking down the corridor. If you're still working in office, you see someone in the hallway and they say, Matt, you didn't send me that report. And I say to them, oh, sorry, I forgot. Let me just do that when I get back to my desk. Yeah. Did that happen? Will you get distracted before you get back to your desk? Will you forget to do that? Yeah, you will. So instead of that, if you have a device like the Surface Pro without a permanent keyboard, you can just fold the keyboard back, and with your pen or your finger, I can open this new email. I can put the first letter of who I want to speak to in here and put that in there. And I can pick Brett and we can put a subject in here. Yep, we can now write a quick note. Now, hopefully what you're seeing here as well is that my handwriting is generally atrocious. Yep, I can also attach that report straight to Brett that I wanted to. Let's just do that one there, and let's attach it as a copy because we Sorry, the other way I meant to do it as a link. Anyway, I'm just going to send that information out. I just did that email to Brett with my pen. One-handed data entry and manipulation. I'm at my desk, but I didn't have to be at my desk to get that done. So a great way to learn to minimize duplication of effort is to learn to use alternate data capture and manipulation tools like your digital pen and your touchscreen. Did you know you can right mouse click with your pen? I can right click, button in, tap with my pen and get a context menu to come up. I can draw with my pen in my Word documents, my spreadsheets, in OneNote. So if I can draw in Office, guess what that means? No printing. Why would I print something if I can draw on it already? Yeah. Highlighting, diagrams, all these things can be done with a digital pen. My favorite thing to do with the digital pen is write to text. In addition to digital pen, what about speaking to my device? The on-screen keyboards all have dictation available directly. Even though Word has dictation built in, I can actually use the on-screen keyboard to dictate into any application. Maybe I have to type into my my customer relationship database or SAP or something else. On-screen keyboard brings up the microphone and I can talk to text. So there's an example of that. This is also an accessibility feature, by the way, as are our screen readers in Windows 10. Ink to text, speech to text, great ways to avoid duplication of effort. If it's a topic you're passionate about, you know it very well, why not talk to your device about it? Get that idea onto a Word document or OneNote or somewhere else that you can do that effectively. So my first key tip for you when it comes to minimizing duplication of effort is to use alternate methods of data capture. Ink to text, speech to text. What about photographic data capture? Well, guess what you have in Windows? You have an inbuilt camera app. I can launch the camera app, but it may crash my presentation live, so I'm not going to do that. One of the most underrated features on a device is a rear-facing camera. The rear-facing camera lets me take pictures of documents, whiteboards, other things, and turns them into text-ready documents for me to manipulate and search for later. Use your cameras to capture data. If you don't have access to a device with a camera, get the Your Phone application. What's Your Phone do? This works better with Android than iOS, doesn't everything, but here I'm straight into my camera roll from my mobile phone here. This is some photos that I took this week directly on my camera roll. So I can actually drag this photo of my kids who got dressed up on the weekend, and I'm very proud of this photo, and put it straight into my Word document. Yeah. I haven't had to email myself that photo. My Windows 10 device can access my Android phone straight from my desktop. I can manipulate my messages from my Android phone straight from my desktop. So I'm not having to pick up another device. I'm not getting distracted, and I'm reducing duplication of effort by using the Your Phone application. If you're in the corporate environment, maybe they haven't given you access to Your Phone right now. Ask for it, right? See if you can test it. This is a great way to minimize duplication of effort and capture data in alternate ways. So ink and speech to text, photographic data capture, and I want to now revisit for you OneNote and ink. If you've heard me present before, you know that I'm an advocate for digital ink. Absolutely. Why? Well, I'm going to post a couple of links to you at the end of this, at the end of this session. One of those links is to a video series that we've just released, which talks about the science behind why everybody thinks differently with a pen than they do with a keyboard. Yeah. Have a look at it. Be convinced, as we are, that the creative mind works best with a pen. And now, if I want to avoid distraction and capture data without duplication of effort, then I need to learn to use a digital pen in OneNote. Why? Well, in OneNote, I can actually just start drawing and writing without using other tools. So here's an example. If I change my notebooks here, here's an example of an article that one of my colleagues wrote on why we should train people to use Windows, not just Power Automate or the other, or Word or PowerPoint or other things. We actually need to train people to maintain their focus at work and to become productive. Yep. Here's an article that he wrote with a pen. Why did he write it with a pen? Why didn't he type it? You compose differently with a pen than you do with a keyboard. Ink in OneNote is searchable. I've been using OneNote since 2003. I'm going to search for the word anything for you. I've currently only got about 15 years worth of notes open, but I'm just searching for 15 years of words of notes for the word anything. And here's a result I wanted to show you. This is obviously set up, right? I've shown people this before. My handwriting is searchable in OneNote. When it comes to duplication of effort and wasted effort, did you know that the average information worker spends between 40 and 80 hours per calendar year looking for notes? If I'd written those notes into OneNote, I've just given myself back 1 to 2 years because I can digitally search my handwritten notes. Not only are these notes searchable, they are also convertible. So I can actually write my article in ink, digital ink, and convert it to text. No duplication of effort. Yeah. So there we go, right? We've gone through a crash course. By the way, we normally go we find the best way to learn this stuff is by sitting with someone like myself for at least an hour, probably 90 minutes, and going through it in a hands-on fashion. Today, I wanted to make you aware of the key things that you can go and research for yourself to help you maintain focus at work and avoid duplication of effort. I want to summarize those key things before I go to question time with you. What were they? Learn to use the start menu to find things. Now, there is a question here, right? How do I get rid of clutter on my desktop, right? Well, in my world, you shouldn't have anything on your desktop. Everything should be on your start menu or in an accessible folder through your start menu. I've got a couple of things on my desktop. Mostly they've installed themselves there and I haven't yet removed them. I don't spend a lot of time on the desktop in a blank space, but my recommendation is use the start menu to unclutter your desktop and get things there. Search for everything else. Learn to use split screen. We've talked about this already. Split screen your applications. Get your task completely visible on your set of monitors. Put new tasks on new desktops. Turn on Focus Assist. Get rid of notifications, preferably alarms only. Learn to use alternate data capture methods, your on-screen keyboards, digital ink, and stop using paper in your workflow. Get out of paper and into OneNote, which is your digital paper replacement tool. If you can get out of your paper-based diary, if you've got the right device, now getting out of paper does require the right device. You need to have a device with a removable keyboard if you want to get rid of paper, and a digital pen is the other key part of that. If you do that, you can get out of paper and you'll save a ton of wasted effort in doing so. All right, so there's a crash course for you. I'm going to open the floor to questions. I've got as much time as you need to answer all your questions. A couple of questions I can see here already that I'll talk about, and keep putting them in the chat, by the way. Do you have any tips on the clean desktop? We've covered through that. Does this handwriting recognition work with MS Office apps on mobiles and tablets as well? Windows tablets, yes. Android tablets, the Samsung Galaxy Note range. I have a Samsung Galaxy Note. Why do I have a Galaxy Note? Because it comes with the digital pen. Lets me write on the screen. It's not the Windows handwriting tool. It's the Samsung one or the Android one, but you can write on the right devices, absolutely. We've put some links in the chat to our YouTube channel. We produce videos every week on our YouTube channel. Our Be a Surface Pro channel is targeted at Surface users, but applies to anyone in Windows 10 devices. All of the tips and tricks there will work with that. We've covered off on those today as well. We've also shared with you a link to our series on the science behind using pens and why digital pens are so important to your personal creativity and your personal productivity. And that's the key message that we live to get out there, right? And we've covered off some of those things today as well. Does anyone have any other questions for me? While I wait for them to come through, I want to leave you with a key message. We do not do enough training personally and as groups of people in using technology. We make massive assumptions, in my experience, about the way people use technology and their skill levels. And we train up here instead of down here. I like to play football still. I'm old now, but I still like to play a game called touch football. It requires lots of running and passing skills. But do you know that even as someone that's well over 40 playing touch football, that in the teams that I play in, we still train our basic skills every week? Why would we do that? I've been playing touch footy now for 30 years. Why would I keep training my basic skills? Because practice is an essential requirement for continued skill maintenance. You cannot be good at anything without ongoing practice and acquiring knowledge. That includes getting focused at work. That includes using Windows 10. That includes using Office. And in my experience, we have not trained any of these skills in our organizations or personally. So our YouTube channel exists to help you with those skills. Watch one video a week, spend 5 to 10 minutes thinking about that skill and how you could apply it, and you'll make a difference to your productive workflow. Back in 2003, I started this journey as a construction manager. I'm a builder, my background's in construction. And I started to do these things around task management and using a digital pen instead of physical paper. And as a construction manager, I took more than 20 hours a week out of my workflow by perfecting these simple tools that I've gone through with you today. So the opportunity for you is a minimum of 8 hours per week per person if you can apply what we've talked about. And for most people, it's much greater than that. So on that end note, thanks for your participation today. Thanks for your time. If you have specific questions, again, I'm going to hang around for a few minutes just in case you're still typing them out. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks. There's definitely some great tips in there for me as well that I'm probably going to go after in the rest of my lunch break and implement on my desktop to just make the rest of my working home from experience smoother as well. So we do have some questions at the end here. I'm not sure if you managed to answer this one, elaborate on this digital ink.
Yeah, I can elaborate on digital ink. So digital ink is about using a pen on your Windows-based device. So digital ink is, in fact, even if you don't have digital ink, if you open a Word document, you should see a draw tab in your Word document or your spreadsheet, and you can draw on any Office application, from PowerPoint to Excel to Word to OneNote to emails and Outlook. You can draw in all of your Office applications, and that means grabbing a pen, and drawing. OneNote is the best app in the world for digital ink. No matter which version of OneNote you're using, you can use digital ink in OneNote. And we say digital ink because that's instead of physical pen and paper, right? We use digital ink. So I have no physical paper in my office. I use my Surface Pro to write on anything and everything. And if it's just paper I need, I go to OneNote and write into that instead. Anonymous has asked, is there an app for the handwriting tool? The app for the handwriting tool is your on-screen keyboards. So your on-screen keyboards, they have different settings in them. There's a settings button in the on-screen keyboard, and that can take you to alternate keyboards. If you have a device with Windows 10 on it and that supports digital pen, the handwriting tool should be there. If it's not, it'll be part of your language component that you need to install. So search for language, look at your available language options. Speech will be one that's sometimes not installed, and handwriting will be one that's sometimes not installed for your chosen language. Handwriting is available in multiple languages in Windows 10. And PG asks about automatically setting up virtual desktops through scripts. I don't need an answer. It's quite possible, but yeah, I haven't done it. I find that most people work with probably 2 or 3 desktops open. and they'll set them up at the course of their day. That's the way I coach them anyway. So set up your first task on a new desktop, leave your triaging screen aside, work in those other desktops. I will say virtual desktops is a killer feature for productivity management. If you can start mastering that, yeah, you'll go a long way to getting more done. Have I missed any there, Sarah?
No, I think that's our last question for the day. I'm just going to pop our survey link in now, and just a link to our website for any upcoming events we have for February and March online. And that's it from the questions. Is there anything else you'd like to cover?
No, I've got it. That's great. Thanks guys for the chance to speak to you about this, and good luck becoming more productive.
Thanks, Matthew. I know I will. All right. Have a good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us again today.
Thanks.